Hey, hi, and howdy, sweet friends. Welcome back to my channel. Or if this is your first time here, my name is Courtney, and welcome. I do food and kitchen content. This particular video is 3 cheap, delicious, easy sides that are perfect for any meal, but especially Thanksgiving, because that is right around the corner. We're going to start off with a cheesy broccoli rice casserole. This is something my mother always serves, always, and it is definitely a favorite. Now, her recipe does call for a can of cream of celery soup. If you have been around a little while, you know I don't buy cream of soup very often. I typically just make my own. It's very easy to do. It's very budget friendly. And of course, if you're into ingredient control and quality control for your stuff, you know exactly what's in here. So I started off with 2 stalks of celery that I minced really finely and 1 small onion that I diced up, and I threw them in a skillet with 2 tablespoons of garlic oil. I make my own garlic oil. It's the byproduct of my confit garlic. That is always linked below in my description box if you're interested in how to make that. But if you don't have that, just go ahead and toss in 1 clove of garlic minced in there. That'll be fine. Or you could do about half a teaspoon of garlic powder. Once that has cooked and it's like translucent and soft and cooked all the way through, we're going to go ahead and add in our spices and seasonings. I like to do that now because I'm using dried herbs and dried seasonings, and toasting them for a couple of minutes really helps bring them back to life and wake up their flavor. So I threw in 1 teaspoon of thyme because I think it has a bright, delicious flavor. And I threw in 1 teaspoon of parsley. And then I'm using bouillon instead of chicken broth, which is why you guys don't see me putting any salt in here because bouillon is super salty. My particular bouillon says to use 1 teaspoon for every cup of liquid. I'll be using 2 cups of liquid today, so I did 2 teaspoons of chicken bouillon. You can use any flavor bouillon that you want, but for this one, I will say I do think that chicken is the best for this. And then I go ahead and add in 2 tablespoons of flour, and we're just letting that toast for just a minute to cook out the floury taste. Now, in order to make this a cream of soup, you're going to need liquids. I like to do mine in a split. I do 1 cup of water and 1 cup of milk. Now, I am not using dairy milk. I am using oat milk today, and I got the extra creamy, which, let me tell you, makes the soup rich and creamy and delicious, and you will not know that there is no dairy in here. It is such a fantastic substitute. So if you are dairy-free, keep that in mind. I like this better than almond milk for cooking like this because it doesn't have a very strong flavor, and it melts with savory foods really, really well. Now, this is a cheesy broccoli rice casserole. So after my liquids have come up to a simmer and started to thicken a bit, I took a 10-ounce box of frozen chopped broccoli that I thawed in the microwave. I just kind of squeezed the water out for the most part, and I'm going to let that simmer in here so that the last little bit of water from it will simmer out. That way our soup base is nice and thick. And after about 7 to 8 minutes, this is what it looks like. You can see it is thick and rich and creamy. That is exactly what we're looking for. Now, I do want to say real quick, if you cannot find chopped broccoli in your freezer section, I've noticed I have a hard time finding it. Just buy some regular frozen broccoli and dice it up after you've thawed it in the microwave. Or, of course, you could use fresh broccoli and just throw it in and let it cook a little bit longer. That's fine, too. All right, next we're going to be using some Cheese Whiz. Now, I will give you kind of different measurements for this. Some people like it extra cheesy, some don't. So if you don't want it super cheesy, then do half a cup of Cheese Whiz. If you want it a little more cheesy, go ahead and do 3/4 to a whole cup of Cheese Whiz. Let your taste preference and your family's taste preference be your guide. I do somewhere between half and 3/4 of a cup. I like it cheesy, but not over the top. And if you just stir this around for a couple of minutes with this hot soup base, it just melts right into it. And you can see it's this beautiful, creamy broccoli cheese sauce. The flavor is incredible because we did put some fresh veggies and stuff in there to cook. I mean, it is so delicious. Next, I have 2.5 cups of cooked rice. I cooked it in my rice cooker that morning, and it's just been kind of waiting for me. So it did really hold the shape of the rice cooker, but no worries if you work it for a couple of minutes into that sauce. It does come apart really, really well. I have had a lot of people ask me what rice I use because it's not just like a regular white rice. I use basmati rice. I buy it in bulk at Sam's Club. That is the rice my family likes. And we do eat a lot of rice here, so I don't mind buying, like a little bit more expensive rice because we pair it with so many meals. We just really enjoy the flavor of it. But this recipe will work with any type of rice because you cook it beforehand. So even if it's minute rice or brown rice or whatever, this will be perfect for it. And I mean, you could even do pasta. I've done it with pasta before, so it's like a mac and cheese situation. So that's just totally up to you. Whatever you would like to do is great. Once it's all incorporated, you want to spray a casserole dish with some nonstick spray, and then just go ahead and get your mixture all in there because this does need to bake for a few minutes. Now, you'll notice I did not put any shredded cheese in here, and I typically don't. But if you would like to top your casserole with some shredded cheddar cheese or some cracker crumbs or something, that is totally optional. If that's what you like, go for it. Bake it at 350 for about 30 minutes. Everything's cooked. You're just bringing it together. All right, let's move on to a classic. All right, this is green bean casserole. And again, let me say I don't use cream of soup for it. It's so easy to make your own though. Typically, I would use dehydrated mushrooms. I buy them because they're often on markdown at my grocery store and toss them in my food dehydrator. So I have them on hand. But today I'm using fresh because I know not everybody has dehydrated mushrooms. I just did a real fine mince on mine because my husband does not like biting into big pieces of mushrooms. But if your family doesn't mind that, just slice them up. I also added in one small onion that I diced up, and I cooked that in some garlic oil until it was cooked all the way through. And again, if you don't have garlic oil, just add in 1 clove of garlic or half a teaspoon of garlic powder. I did not add any salt in here either because we're going to be using bouillon, but I did just add in 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce because I love Worcestershire sauce. If you don't love it, you might want to add in a little bit less. That's totally up to you. And a sprinkle of thyme is nice in here as well, but you don't have to. Next, I added in about 2 tablespoons of flour, and we're just going to let that cook. Now, I have not added in my bouillon yet. I will do that in a minute. Instead of using powder bouillon for this one, I feel like I like a big beefy taste when it comes to this kind of dish. When it comes to like a mushroom dish, I want a big beefy flavor. So I added in a little pepper, and I'm going to use a beef bouillon. I got such a great score on the clearance aisle at Walmart. You guys, I got some organic beef base by Better Than Bouillon that I'm going to be adding in here in a minute for $2, and it doesn't expire for like a whole year. So it was a great deal. I could not believe what a find that was. So just a reminder, always check your clearance racks. You really never know what is going to be there, honestly. But I just added in the appropriate amount, 2 teaspoons roughly for this dish. As you can see, I measure so carefully. I'm an eyeballer. That's just how I roll. I like to eyeball stuff. And I like to put the Better Than Bouillon directly onto my hot skillet just so it kind of like mixes in a little bit better. Once it heats up, it just stirs in a little bit better. And just like with our cream of celery soup, we do need to add 2 cups of liquid. This is going to be exactly the same as that. I'm going to do a half and half, 1 cup of water, and then I'll add in 1 cup of oat milk. And again, you can use regular milk if that's what you like. It's totally up to you. You could even do all water if you really want to. It's not that big of a deal. It won't be quite as creamy, but it would still be really tasty. So I will leave that to your discretion. You can make it however you want. Just, use what you have, use what your family likes. That's the most important thing at the end of the day. Make sure you're using what your family likes. I'm going to give this a good stir, make sure there's no lumps and clumps, and then we're just going to let this simmer for a couple of minutes so it thickens up. It does not take very long at all. It will just come together beautifully and quickly. So while that's happening, I want to go ahead and get some green beans together. I'm using 3 14-ounce cans of green beans. You can always double or triple this recipe as needed. I drained the liquid out and then added them to a bowl. And now I'm going to put the cream of soup in there, our cream of mushroom soup. Oh, this stuff is so good. I love that cream of mushroom soup when I make it from scratch. Honestly, I could just probably eat it with some bread dipped in it. It is so delicious. There's nothing bland about it. It has so much flavor. It is just so, so good. We just want to kind of give this a really good stir so that the green beans are fully coated with our cream of mushroom soup there. And that's really all there is to it. Because we already sauteed mushrooms in there, we don't need to add any additional, or since we already sauteed the onions in there, we don't need to add any additional onions inside of there. We'll just top it, of course, with those classic fried onions. All right, you don't have to do that. If you're not an onion person, you could totally top it with like some buttery crackers. But classically, this dish has those amazing fried onions on top. And I got to tell you guys, I love those things. Like, I know they're probably packed full of junk and they're not great for you, but there's something about those on top of a casserole that makes everything taste so darn delicious. I buy mine at Sam's Club because my family really likes these. Like, I have one kid that will just grab a handful out and eat them. They're so good. But I just put a nice thick layer on top. You don't have to put as many on as I do. That's just what I like. And then I just bake this at 350 for about 30 minutes. Now, I will give you this one tip. If you really want to elevate it, a little bit of crumbled bacon in with the beans and stuff is amazing. I didn't do that this particular time to keep it just a little more budget friendly when I shared the recipe, but if you've got it and you want to do it, it tastes fabulous. All right, our last dish is cream spinach. I love a good cream spinach. My husband loves a good cream spinach, and it's so much easier to make than most people think. So I started off with a little bit of garlic oil in my pan, and then I added 1 onion that I diced up. Again, if you don't have the garlic oil, sub 1 clove of garlic that you've minced up, or just half a teaspoon of garlic powder. And then, as you can see, I scored a deal for the spinach. I got 2 bags, and the total cost for both bags together was like $2.18. Oh, such a good deal. This is already washed and ready to go, which is my favorite way to get produce because, you know, it just saves time, honestly. But now that our onions are sauteed, we're going to cram both those bags in there. I know it looks like it's a tight fit and it's not going to work, but don't worry. It'll come together and it's going to cook to nothing almost because that's the magic of spinach. So once I've got it in there, I like to pour about 1/4 cup of water in there just to kind of help it steam for a couple of minutes and then just pop a lid on there. And it takes like 3 or 4 minutes and this stuff will almost completely cook down. It is so simple to cook down spinach. It looks like it hasn't cooked down much, but watch as I stir, it literally just disintegrates. Spinach is funny that way, but it is really easy to work with and it's good for you. And it's easy to make this side dish, so you're getting some extra veggies in. Now we just want to let this continue to simmer and try to let some of the water cook out. There's always going to be liquid in here because the spinach is going to continue to release liquid, but we'll let a little bit of it cook out. It's no big deal, not to worry. Once this is nicely cooked down, we want to go ahead and start thinking about how we're going to make our creamy spinach taste really good first. We're going to need to add a little bit of salt and pepper. This is not a recipe where I'm putting any kind of bouillon in there, so we do need to add salt and we do need to add pepper. And one thing that I think people always forget when they make cream spinach, nutmeg. It's got to have a little bit of nutmeg. It is just that flavor that's in some kind of creamy sauces that always makes you go, I wonder what that is. And you notice if it wasn't there. It keeps it from being a bland sauce. So I like to add probably more nutmeg than I need, about 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg in here. I did also add in a little bit of butter there. The butter just kind of helps keep it from sticking and being rich and creamy. And then I added in almost 1/4 cup of heavy cream. If you don't have a heavy cream, you can go with milk. You'll just need to kind of simmer it down for a few more minutes so it thickens up. And then, of course, Parmesan cheese. Now, I will say, I'm using the green shaker tub to show you that you can use that. But if you want this to really, really come out better, shredding your own Parmesan is always the way to go. The stuff that's on the outside of this Parmesan to keep it from sticking together also prevents it from melting and being truly rich and creamy. It's going to look really good and it's not lumpy or anything, but it's not nearly as luxurious as if you were to use freshly shredded Parmesan. But I know most of us keep the green shaker tub in our fridge, so that's what you got. Use it. As you can see, I'm using it and it works out beautifully. Now, if you want some spice to this, I highly, highly recommend crushed red pepper flakes. I am not a fan of spice in this. I like it just the way it's got a nice warmth to it, ton of flavor, and I'm eating my spinach, so I feel really good about it the way it is. But I know some people like to just crank up the spice level, and that's fine. You do want to let this simmer for just a couple of minutes so that it can come all the way together. I noticed mine was still a little looser than I wanted, so I added a little bit more Parmesan in total. I think I added about 1/2 to 3/4 cup of Parmesan. It makes a really nice sauce. It's kind of got a little bit of an Alfredo vibe going on there. But it's so, so tasty, so delicious. And after a few minutes of simmering, you'll see it thickens up beautifully. Look at that. It comes together so nicely. And this is totally done. That's it. That's all it takes to make cream spinach, but it's always such a hit. So, so good. You can really wow your guests. Just pop it into a casserole dish and top it with some cracker crumbs if you want to be super fancy. But those are 3 very budget-friendly, very simple, very delicious dishes that you can make for your family this Thanksgiving. I promise they are going to love them because they are super, super tasty. My family certainly did. We just served these on the side with some smoked chicken, but either way, they were so good. Recipes are listed down below. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I hope each and every one of you have a very happy, wonderful Thanksgiving if you celebrate that holiday. Enjoy time with your friends, your family, and your loved ones. Thank you so much for joining me here on my channel. Be sure to hit that like button before you leave. Thank you guys, and I will see you soon. Bye.